thank you. And the interesting thing is that we just got a message from Disha that this session was supposed to be, can you please cut down this session to 45 minutes? And if you read the schedule, it says we have got 45 minutes, so we are on no discount. So we're quite excited about it. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for keeping the energy high. It's a pleasure to be here. Before we move on to the topic, I would just like to, and I'm sure all of you would agree, just giving India Diversity Forum a very big hand for getting this diverse set of people as speakers today. It has been a real pleasure to really see the kind of background from which all of you have come, and it's been a pleasure being here. I'm sure my co-panelists would agree.
Definitely.
The kind of conversations we have had. Also, has anyone heard the term bully pulpit? Pulpit is, or the lectern is, from where the sermons are given in church, and it's called bully pulpit because like those who give the sermons, or moderators also have the habit of really navigating as to we can decide where the discussion would go. So after hearing Manvendraji, Shweta and Subham in the previous session, one quick observation, my co-panelists, before we start, is what I had is that, and that's a request to all of you in this forum here, that please make sure that, one of the reasons why I while answering Sweta, I use the term persons with disability, person with physical disability or mental disability or visual disability, is because this was something taught to me in my college back in the year 2006. I did not I did not take a course specializing in disabilities or went to a management school. It was a simple law school. That's the Nalsar University of Law at Hyderabad. But at that point of time, conversations around LGBTQ, in fact, those were just said queer rights, not even LGBTQ rights. The term itself, LGBTQIA, was not in prevalence. Or people with disability right was not a commonplace. But we were informed and oriented in these concepts in a manner that they became pretty normal as we spent time in the colleges. I'm not sure how many education institutions, even today, right, are doing so. Are we having these conversations in school? So it's an appeal to all of you, at least what I feel, that these conversations need to trickle down, and at your level, whatever you can do, if you align with organizations, please encourage them to go to education institutions, irrespective of the discipline, to have conversations around it. It will make all of us more aware and sensitized towards the kind of world we want to live in. That was the only sort of digression I wanted to make. We have an amazing panel, and we are here to talk about impact assessment beyond metrics. What makes my job easy is that our panelists are not only experienced, aware, but also in many ways passionate about the topic of really going beyond metrics and trying to sort of address this issue and trying to find solutions for it. So what I would do is, we have Dr. Medha Paranjape, who's head of HR MSD. That's a Merck India company, right, ma'am?
That's right.
Yeah. And sorry if I call anyone sir or ma'am. I am a corporate lawyer by training. So everyone can be a potential client. So I'm just being very polite. Jokes aside. Sir, छोड़ना नहीं चाहिए कभी.
Hope that we don't need you.
Yeah, I'll bill you for that. Don't worry. And Aditya Tiwari, who you were listening to right now, is the global HR head and talent leader of Covestro, and Dr. Jagmohan Rishi. So while we have Mr. Rishi works for Wockhardt and has a similar profile than me, that he's not only the global head of L&D but also head of digital customer experience. And while I have made your introductions, why don't each one of you, starting with Dr. Paranjape, would like to talk about, introduce yourself in a manner, how you relate to the topic and the discussion that we are having today, and whatever thoughts you have. Please go ahead.
Okay. I hope I'm audible. Yeah? Okay. So good afternoon, everybody. And again, kudos to the organizers for such a great event. My name is Dr. Medha Paranjape, and as Vaibhav mentioned, I lead the HR for MSD's Animal Health business. And my passion or my liking for diversity, everything diversity, inclusion, and equity has been over the years developed as a HR professional, as a woman in the corporate world. A a lot of things that we see, we experience as individuals, and that's where I built this interest. Back in 2017, I decided to quit my full-time role and do a PhD in this subject, which I don't know, why, but it really, I really thought that it was important to do some practical research, or what is actually happening on the ground. Because last couple of decades, I think last 2 or 3 decades, we are hearing the DEI, the words and the work around DEI has only begun on the last 2 or 3 decades. So how has that impacted the corporate world? That's where my interest began. And to talk about this particular subject, and this is also very close to my heart, that many a times organizations want to start their journeys on the DEI path and very quickly get into the number game. And that's where the entire essence of why do you want to get into this path seems to be lost. So we need to understand, and we need to be a little more purposeful as to why do I want to do this. What is it that my organization or me or the culture at my workplace is going to be if I do this. So to me, I think numbers is the end of it. I think that's not even not even something that we should be counting.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting, because that is one of the long-term goals that any organization would try to follow. Mr. Rishi, what about you? What connects you with the topic and the theme?
Okay, in fact, whenever I heard this term first time, I was surprised. I said, I'm expressing my personal thoughts. I said it's a very commonsensical thing to include everybody in this. My upbringing has been from that only. I come from armed forces background. My father was in army, grandfather was in army. So I've grown up in that atmosphere where everybody is inclusive in that. So, okay, so that's a kind of, when I moved out of the army environment, I saw a corporate world where there was division. So that was pretty shocking to me, and in the corporate world I heard the word D&I. So and for me it is still a common sense. There is a verse called Awwal Allah Noor Upaya Kudrat ke sab bande, right? So if everybody is Kudrat ke bande, then why we are differentiating? It is the human being which differentiates the maximum. So anyway, it is good that some corporates are taking initiatives to include everybody. And some corporates are not. That is where the impact analysis will like to come over there. Yeah. And government is also doing its job to ensure this equality is maintained accordingly. I authored a book called Are You a Digital Dinosaur? But I kept a chapter on D&I into that. Okay. So best part is that I didn't write it for money. I donated all the profits to Bharat Ke Veer Foundation, which supports the widows of Indian Army. Right. And primarily, it is important for us that first thing is our intent, the mindset. So that's the reason we have to go beyond the numbers, beyond the NPS scores, what we get from the customers, or internal CSAT scores. Those impact analysis, if we have the right kind of intent and the mindset, then we will be able to implement these D&I initiatives properly. Otherwise, it will be a tick mark activity.
Right, right. So, moving to Aditya, while you make your observations, also if we can, try to define what are these metrics that we are talking about, and that's a segue to the next sort of conversation we want to have, that we want to go beyond. So, if you can talk about, your association or your interest in the topic, and also about just define what are these metrics that we're talking about that you want to move beyond.
Sure, thanks Vaibhav. And I see that we were given an hour's time, and then we were supposed to complete that in 45 minutes, but I see that we've been given only 30 minutes. Okay. So might as well we'll overshoot by a few. Yeah. So when we talk about DEI, what happens is that the moment it becomes a policy, we will start using certain metrics, certain numbers, because we are very used to, as Indians especially, we need KPI, KRAs, targets to achieve. And we started with, say, let's gender ratio. So a lot of organizations started saying, okay, how many females do you have?
Right.
Percentage, started defining some number, 40%, 50%. Probably then we moved into different spectrums, okay, LGBTQ, AI, plus. So do you have a number in place? Fortunately, there is not a fixed number which is there, because if there was, people would start following. And we should use, it's not that metrics or matrices are not important. It's that they should be used as tool rather than as an end result or a purpose. And like Rishi said, it's the intent which should be mattering at this point of time rather than looking at the numbers. Yes, we look at the impact, because the longer or the broader goal is to see how much difference we are able to make via these DEI policies or journeys. So as a country, what we are doing is we are following whatever has happened in the West. And that's a very good thing to learn from. Whatever has happened there, most probably, similar things will happen here.
Right.
And personally, what I think is that wherever there is diversity, the chances of discrimination increase because you have diversity.
Yes.
India being a country, we have diversity. Someone was talking about every 50 kilometers you walk, there is a change in dialect, change in language, change in how people dress. So we are still trying to identify what are the diversities. Someone said that there are 13 plus diversities. We started with gender and then we have age now. But I think there are, what kind of attire do we have? So we were having a discussion.
Yeah.
So do we have to have numbers? So primarily, I think most organizations are trying to have metrics around gender, PWD, LGBTQI, these other things. So I think as an organization, Covestro, what we have as a philosophy is diversity is a fact, inclusion is an act, and equity is an impact. And that's how we should be focusing. And like Medha said, it's their intention and we need to reach there. It's not the number. Right. But even if we reach there as a number, do we have an impact? Without having an impact, the numbers actually don't make much of sense. That's what my personal opinion is.
Yeah, yeah.
If I can add,
Please.
Vaibhav. So when this entire journey of DEI began, especially in the corporate world, we all heard a lot of case studies, that DEI brings this much amount of profitability, this benefit to the business, that numerous case studies and numerous research papers we would have seen. Now, having the numbers, like what Aditya was saying, having the numbers is just one part of the story. Operationalizing them to get the business benefit is where the crux lies. And that can be only achieved when there is inclusion, because without inclusion, all the kind of diversity that you might have really doesn't come to fruition, right? So that's where the entire measurement should be, the inclusion part of it, not the diversity part.
So sorry, just to add here, there was one of the sentences I heard during one of my DEI training, it really stuck on to me, that diversity is calling people to the party. Inclusion is requesting them to come to the dance floor for dancing.
Yeah. And
offering drink.
And
also.
equity is?
Equity is everyone dances and everyone gets drinks.
Yeah, I've heard this, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's the, that's something I think all of us would agree on. Now, while I also have some observations on how each of our industries sort of differs, has its own set of challenges and stories around, creating this impact. So what I wanted to throw open to all three of you, and depending on whoever thinks his or her story is the most interesting can start. If you can share some case studies, some example, life experience, war stories on this whole issue of impact, because that's something a lot of leaders in this room would like to take as a, would be the takeaway, and they may have their own experience that we would try to get in the Q&A if time permits, to also include. So who wants to go first?
Army stories are always best.
And you are the one author on the table.
I'm not going to tell army stories, but there is a story, of course. One is a professional story, is a personal story.
Please.
Of course, as he was talking about, Aditya was talking about the having numbers in place, and unknowingly, I was a part of one of the committees where the D&I was to be, numbers were to be submitted.
Right.
So when I was going through it, I realized that, one of the plants I had visited, it did not have, the washroom was there, which was a gents washroom. There was no ladies washroom there.
Right.
So it was a shock to me. So I said, checked it out. He said there was one lady who's left. So having a washroom, and it may be shocking for you guys. It is somewhere very interior in India, okay? So in Bombay, it is unthinkable.
Yeah.
But in that area, having, and at the same time, that particular place is to be audited by US FDA.
Right.
So if this is the thing, it was pretty shocking to me. I reported the matter, of course, and of course we got it. Incidentally, though, there was no visitor also. Along with me, my co-trainer was a male only. So luckily, after that, I started including a lady trainer into that, so that that thing is visible to them, that it is important to have those things. This is, of course, from the structure point of view. There was another incident where in the other plant, this is not, okay, all those things are talking from my point of view, nothing to do with my company, of course, okay. So as a disclaimer. There was another case where the lift was there, as Shweta was talking about it. The lift was there, the ramp was there, but then at the entry of the organization, there was no ramp so that she can comfortably come for the differently abled lady. She was there. So those things, these small things, it makes a lot of difference. At this juncture, I would like to ask you, do you have all insurances of yours? Just raise your hand.
You mean, sir, life insurance?
Life insurance. Yeah. Okay. So do you have your, how many of you have vehicles with you? All of you must be having vehicles with you. Do you get PUC done? Do you get your driving license done? Do you get your, insurance done?
Yeah.
So that is being done because there is a need by the government to get it done, audited done.
Yeah.
So that is where exactly the impact thing comes. If that is being mandated by the government, this thing also has to be mandated, and that is the reason these numbers and the PUCs, such things have to be incorporated in our life also. This is from the professional point of view.
Yep.
Personal, I like to share with you. My wife, unfortunately, she had a incident of breast cancer last year, and that during the treatment, touch wood, she is perfectly fine. Okay, so during the treatment, if there is a hair loss.
Yeah.
Right. So there is a hair loss, and I suggested that she goes bald, and to be not seeing the agony of hairs falling and again. She started avoiding going to kitty parties and other places. So that is again a personal experience from me, that you see, if a person is little differently looking or abled, person goes into a depression or gets into a groove that I'll not like to be a part of it. So there, I'm talking about intent. Our intent has to be that you include them, but at the same time include in a different particular manner. So I don't want to go in details about it, but I thought I must express that also.
Fair enough. Thank you for sharing that. I had an observation which just slipped my mind. Anyone else would like to share?
So I'm working for an organization called Covestro, which is a German chemical manufacturing organization. So chemical manufacturing organizations in India are not the ones to have best diversity in terms of people working in the plants.
Right.
So it is easy to put a number that let's start hiring females, but we need to dig deep. So as an organization, what we do is, if you go to an engineering class or a college, what would be the percentage of females sitting there? If the percentage is probably 2, 4 or 5, to expect to have 50% females in your plant may not be right. So as an organization, we had certain projects wherein we started educating girl child at the age of 5 to join STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. And probably when we have a class full, a diverse class, probably then as a society we would want to put some numbers in place. And I am personally a staunch believer of the philosophy of equality of opportunity rather than equality of outcome.
Right.
So numbers usually put an outcome. We don't have to decide the outcome. I think you give equality of opportunity for people to be represented, be present, and let merit and lot of other criteria to take place. But a lot of times by putting numbers, we want to influence the result, which may not be the right case. So there are a lot of projects as an organization what we are doing to support underprivileged girl, child, or probably educate them to take up science, technology, engineering and mathematics. And that is also to do a lot of times in the West, you will see there will be a comparison. So we had a discussion on pay parity, that females are getting less paid compared to men. Actually, the problem is lesser females take STEM fields. They take other fields which probably may not be as much paying. So we need to look at things and not only the matrices, and we have to focus on the intent and the input and focus more on the equality of opportunity rather than equality of outcomes.
Yeah.
I really agree with that opportunity first mindset. Just to give you some examples of what many of us would have seen. How many of us have seen buildings where there is a director's lift?
I've seen it.
Nothing against whoever does it, but just think about why would somebody
Directors lift and
somebody need
executive
it?
dining rooms.
We were speaking about
Directors lift and executive dining rooms.
So that's one. But again, taking an example, so one of the previous organizations that I worked for, we also were a chemical company where, agrochemical company actually, and we were trying to bring in more women. We had a lot of people in the campus, but we did not have the equal, that translating into workplace. But as a company, we decided to do something different to be able to attract these people. Because if a woman has to, spend 300 kilometers, travel every day for sales, stay in small 3, 4, 5 tier cities, what is it that in terms of safety, security, will that person need? And those special arrangements the company was willing to invest for people to be able to, get that opportunity so that they then are able to grow via merit. Those differentiations, like what Shweta mentioned earlier, if we are able to accommodate these differences as much as possible as an organization, we need to be able to extend that to enhance different kinds of people being able to join our workforce.
Yeah, completely agree.
Just one point I remembered is from her example for director's lift. There is a very nice example of a cafeteria, one of the organizations I worked for, where a table used to be booked for the CMD and the managing director, but the table is booked, but they will never sit on that table. Every day they will sit on different table with an employee. So that's a kind of demonstration of walking the talk primarily. That it is not that I'm going to sit on different table.
Yeah.
That is again walking that, and it always flows from the top accordingly.
No, completely agree. Also, adding to the stories bit, something that I would like to bring it to the table is, the story is slightly different in organizations or kind of organizations where I come from. I represent not only law firms here, but also what we call professional service firms, right? Where, we don't have so many MNCs, we have a few in audit, or they can't do audit, but in other consulting services businesses, and where individuals are really the main capital that the company has, not plant or machinery. And that's why individuals become very important, right? A partner is the revenue center, cost center, think of whatever, and certainly he or she is the revenue center, but then many other are just cost, okay? Now in such a scenario, all these conversations that we have had, right? Retirement age, the previous conversation on pay, paternity leave, these become very, very blur. We are a very small part of the GDP from percentage standpoint, because we are a subset of the services sector, but we are a crucial part because business rests on us. Whether it's consultancy, whether it's audit, whether it's law firms, whether it's architect firms, just imagine the whole gamut of, many other consultancies. Now, within this, the story I wanted to share was of legal services sector. All of you are, one of the good things that is currently a state in India is that we have a Chief Justice of India who interacts with media often, who is seen, heard, and also, he speaks in a manner that we all can understand, right? So he recently, a couple of months back, made an observation during his days in when he was the Chief Justice of the Allahabad High Court, that majority of trial courts did not have a women's toilet, right? And this was the fundamentals of diversity that you can talk about. And just imagine, I represent a law firm which is one of the largest law firms in the country. It's a good thing that India has one or two more such law firms today, and one of them is led by, in a way, one of the founder partners is Ms. Zia Modi, who is a shining example of what women leadership can do. The point I'm making is, 25 years back, it was impossible to imagine a woman leading to a court and getting briefs in a man's world. Being a lawyer was a man's profession. Clients were men mostly who would talk to their lawyer in confidence about the things they don't want to tell anyone else. Just imagine how difficult it was for a lady to become that trusted advisor, right? And today, if you see the statistics, the change that corporate law firms have brought to legal services is that a lot of firms, and I say this with pride, Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas, majority of our leaders, practice area heads are actually women. More than 50% of our workforce among the associates are women. And in the senior leadership, that's what we call partnership, more than 35 to 45, I think was the last number, are women. Okay? And we have diversity, again, we are not taking diversity data on other counts, on geographical counts or sexual orientations or other, but we have a system that encourages people from all sorts of background to attend. And here, it's not only one is here to tell good stories about one's achievement. This is something, the credit goes to the managing partner, Mr. Cyril Schroff, and others who have done the undivided Amarchand that they have done in the past. One challenge I would like to share with you, and that's a folly of all of us humans. So we have a couple of associates in Bombay and few others in Delhi who are people with visual disability. They used to rely on a lot of technology tools for reading documents, doing diligence, and that's how we would advise clients, right? We thought when the lockdown was imposed that these individuals, how would they work? Actually, they were very fine because everything was on Zoom, everything was on Teams, everything was on screens and platform for which we had devices that could read, and they could they were not dependent on their eyes to read the document. Problem started as we normalized and came back to office. We humans, out of our habit, started, getting together in groups, conversations started happening, or we were just passing on documents. Have you read that? Ye padh liya, theek hai, dekh lo. And at that time, one of the associates said, okay, Vaibhav, now is the problem. Pandemic actually was fine because everything was online. Humans are a problem, right? With that same hope, I also, if it's a really free-flowing and honest conversation, in the next India Diversity Conclave, the stage will have a ramp, right? So the speaker doesn't have to take steps. So, these are small incremental changes that we all expect, and this conversation was about those incremental changes.